Hello everyone, my name is Trevor, I go by the Mr. Trails, and welcome to the channel. Today's video we are going to be going over how to use repeaters properly, as they are easily the most misused weapon in Dauntless. If you're new around here and you enjoy Dauntless content, consider subscribing for more Dauntless content every week. And if you're returning to the channel, thank you all yet again for all of the support recently. I just can't shut up about how awesome you all are for sticking around. So, a very common misconception in this game is that repeaters are bad. While they definitely are towards the bottom of the potential DPS scale, they aren't worthy of being called a bad weapon in the slightest. They don't exactly suffer all that much when compared to the more balanced weapons like chain blades, axes, and war pikes, yet both experienced and inexperienced players complain about them. Inexperienced players will complain about them not doing quite enough damage, and that basically will just stem from them being inexperienced. But the reasons experienced players will complain about repeaters are valid as well, sort of comparing the weapon to what it could be versus what it actually is. Repeaters could be much better off given no mechanic changes whatsoever, and just catching them up to the rest of the weapons when it comes to perk economy. As it stands, repeaters are the only weapon class where getting a full offensive perk economy totaling 36 offensive perks is impossible, and it is unable to achieve this for two reasons. Reason number one is no built-in perk like you would get on all of the other weapons aside from their recruit and exotic forms. Repeaters are the only non-exotic, non-recruit weapon that doesn't come with a built-in perk. Repeaters were a sort of exotic weapon when they first came out, but it was also quite a bit harder to get a perfect perk economy on the other weapons in the game anyway. However, times have changed and the basic repeaters certainly should be given a built-in perk. Reason number two that they can't achieve a perfect perk economy is that dastardly mobility slot. If repeaters didn't have a built-in perk and this mobility slot were some other type like utility, power, or technique, then experienced players wouldn't complain about them nearly as much. But since it is a mobility slot, this is certainly fuel they need to say that repeaters suck. And having this mobility slot truly does suck. Mobility, as we know, pertains to either increasing movement speed or relates to stamina consumption in some way. Mobility slots aren't desirable on any weapon to begin with, as full offense is the move in efficient Dauntless gameplay. But giving a mobility slot to the slowest move speed weapon that's only form of stamina consumption is dodging? Why, Phoenix Labs? Why? Since I just mentioned slow move speed, let me address why it's even decreased for repeaters in the first place. I do believe that having the slower move speed is actually kind of fair, since repeaters do have perfect accuracy to wherever you point the reticle. If you gave repeaters the faster move speed, you should remove the perfect accuracy aspect and give it a bloom-based system like you might see in Fortnite, which would only make people complain about repeaters more than they already do. But back to the main issue here, repeaters are limited to having only 30 offensive perks versus all of the other weapons being able to roll with 36 offensive perks, and that's why experienced players don't exactly like repeaters. A pretty obvious fix for this would be to attach perks and unique cell slots to the barrels in the game, changing the built-in perk and cell slots based on the other weapons of the barrel's elements. But this isn't even the only issue that experienced players have with repeaters. Repeaters also have a terrible time when it comes to interrupting. There's only two methods of interrupting on the weapon itself, one of which being useless since it would reduce your offensive perk abilities from the already pitiful 30 down to 24. The other method, even on a full offensive build, just hemorrhages damage per second, and if you're playing in a group, you'll be compromising their damage per second output as well. Since the captain's grip gives more attack speed, it's already more valuable than an unreliable interrupt method with lackluster damage, never mind the fact that you'll be boosting up to 3 other people's attack speed while you do it. This makes running overpower on repeaters kinda crap, since they can't interrupt very well and they need weighted strikes to be doing stagger damage. The preferred way to interrupt behemoths when using repeaters is concussive grenades, which takes away a consumable slot that could be assisting you with putting out more damage. So then, how do you have to play repeaters to make them effective to at least be able to catch up to other weapons? I've taken the liberty of breaking down effective repeaters use into 5 golden rules, if you will. Rule Rule number 1. Repeaters are not to be used as a ranged weapon. Repeaters have a damage fall-off mechanic, meaning the further away you are, the less damage they will do. You will know if you're standing close enough when your reticle is red. If your reticle is white, you're standing too far away. Maybe, if or when the bow comes out, we may have an actual ranged weapon, but I kinda doubt this, as we'll probably see a similar damage fall-off mechanic. Rule number 2. Repeaters should not be given excess mobility or defensive cell slots. If you're the kind of player that plays with Iceborne a lot, this might upset you. But both when you're playing repeaters and you're playing Iceborne in general, you're sacrificing potential damage. From a starting point, repeaters are basically doomed to be on the level of other weapons when those other weapons are actually using Iceborne and the repeaters are not. 30 offensive perks on repeaters matches 30 offensive perks on other weapons when using Iceborne, meaning you'd have to drop the offensive perk total for repeaters down to 24 to be able to use Iceborne. And this is probably where a lot of the lesser experienced players are complaining about the damage output, since they are working with less damage than they are used to on Iceborne builds. Rule number 3. Captain's Grip and Searing Prism are 100% must-haves. At a base, repeaters have some amount of attack speed, but they don't really do all too much damage, which means the Hellion unique effect found on the Searing Prism is going to be the most beneficial prism to it. Captain's Grip, I already said why it's the only choice, since it'll give attack speed not only to the user, but other slayers in the hunt as well. Rule number 4. Your build will pretty much always be the same in terms of perk summary. You're going to be running 6 utility, whether it's Conduit or Catalyst, depending on whether or not you want to use potions. Then 6 Predator and Rage, because we've already ruled out Iceborne, so you need Predator for extra damage. The +3s I run are Berserker, Discipline, Rage Hunter, and Wild Frenzy, plus whatever mobility slot you use. For mobility, Sprinter or Fleet-footed, either way it doesn't matter too much. The other specs we'll talk about right now. Rule number 5. Barrels, chambers, mods, and lanterns are going to depend on the behemoth you're fighting. Your barrel is going to be decided by whatever elemental advantage you have. Your chamber is going to change for different reasons. Full bore chamber should be used on longer, slow-moving behemoths like Drask or Charog. The more behemoth that it passes through, the more damage output it will contribute. The downside to it is that it pushes you backward when you're empowered, which is kind of a yikes. If it isn't a super long behemoth, then either of the two other chambers are about the same, the salvo chamber being more useful when you aren't likely to break parts from the behemoth even when the part damage increases from marksman chamber. They produce fairly comparable times though, thanks to marksman increasing core damage once the part has been broken, making marksman chamber very good against behemoths that you can break off a part extremely quickly. Your mod and lantern choice are going to be affected by whatever chamber you're using. For full bore and salvo chambers, Tactician's Magazine is going to be your mod choice with Embermane or Drask Lantern. Marksman chamber, however, will want to use Precision Sights and Shrike Lantern instead. This is something that didn't quite make it into my malfunctioning equipment video, but Precision Sights has a weird quirk to it. So the damage it adds does scale with weapon power and damage boosts and stuff like that. And this includes the massive 80% core damage boost when using the marksman chamber on a broken behemoth part. Something discovered by Captain Maelstrom and Ket though is Precision Sights really only wants any damage you're dealing to be on that part. So Precision Sights isn't very useful for full bore, salvo chamber, or lantern damage, all of which reset the Precision Sights damage bonus, meaning you want to use the Shrike Lantern when using the Precision Sights mod. Let me just state these combos again: full bore chamber or salvo chamber with Tactician's Magazine and Drask or Embermane Lantern, and marksman chamber with Precision Sights and Shrike Lantern. All of these combos perform similarly, some being better on certain behemoths than others. With those 5 golden rules obeyed, repeaters become okay. And that is going to wrap up today's video. Thank you to all of you guys for watching. I hope this cleared up some stuff for you guys regarding repeaters. They aren't the best weapon by any means, but not the terrible weapon that they're credited with being. If you found this video helpful to you, consider liking the video. If you enjoy Dauntless content, consider subscribing for more Dauntless content every week. I've been Trevor, I go by the Mr. Trails, and I will catch you guys next time.